Hello students and namaste. Our today's topic for your standard 9th English is your supplementary reader number 10, that is The Beggar by Anton Chekov. So Anton Chekov is basically a Russian writer, and in this chapter, that is The Beggar, there is a description about a person who is the main character of this chapter, whose name is Chekov. And he was a school teacher, right, and who had lost his job because of intrigue. Intrigue means what, right? So intrigue means usually we all have heard the word which is very common at present, which is known as politics. So usually at the workplace area also some kind of politics keeps on going, and ultimately it means a secret plan or plotting which is used for the other person, right? So the Chekov, who was a school teacher, he lost his job because of the intrigue, that is a secret plan or a plot, right? And also because of calumny, calumny. Calumny means what? Its meaning is usually a false statement which is made for a person, and because of which that particular person loses his reputation in the society, right? False statement is made for that person, because of which he loses his reputation in the society. So because of that thing he had lost his job. Even he didn't have 5 kopecks. Kopecks is a unit of money or monetary unit. Usually it is the 100th part, right? Usually we have rupees, so if we say 1 paise, right? So in the same way it is kopek. It is 100th part of rubles. Okay, so he didn't have even 5 kopecks for lodging, that means to eat food, right? So one day he finds a person to whom he requests, and the name of that person is Sergei, okay, Sergei, right? So he was an advocate, and this fellow whose name is Chekov, as he was not having money, he had lost his job, right? So he requested Sergei to give him money to eat food, and therefore this advocate, whose name was Sergei, he told him that you need to work for me. If you'll work for me, I'll give away the money to you. So he brings him at his home and he gives him the work of chopping the wood, right? So when he brings him home, he tells the cook, whose name is Olga, to show the place where the wood was kept for chopping. So she, that is Olga, takes the beggar, that is Chekov, to the place or the area where the woods were lying for chopping off, right? So after some time Olga informed that the woods are all chopped, and the advocate, he gave him, the beggar or the Chekov, the money, right? And he even told Chekov that you need to come between 1st to 7th date of every month here for chopping the wood and getting some or the other kind of work, and accordingly Chekov did it. But the main thing over here was that the Chekov, when he was told to chop off the wood, he did not chop the wood, right? It was Olga who had chopped the wood for him. The reason was she found him miserable. She found that this fellow, that is Chekov, who did not have food to eat, was very weak enough, and he could not do the chopping work. So she shouted on him, she cried, and ultimately she helped her to chop off the wood, but she did not inform this thing to the advocate, right? So this is how the story proceeds further, and at the end, after almost 2 years, right? So means the advocate used to give work to the Chekov. Then after some time he never turned, and that means he never came to the advocate. And almost after 2 years, when the advocate, that is Sergei, he went to the theater for watching a movie. Near the theater he found one man who was well dressed, and even he was there to watch a movie, and he was purchasing a ticket for gallery. Gallery means there were old kind of theaters where there was a separate place which was higher and which used to cost more money. That was known as gallery or balcony. Okay, so he was purchasing the ticket for the theater. So Sergey, who was an advocate, he was very much surprised and happy to see this person, because he was none other than the beggar, whose name was Chekov, and now he was doing the work of a notary, right? He was living a reputed life and a very good life, well dressed, and job of a notary, and he used to earn 35 rubles, right? In those time, this was a very good handsome amount of money. So he used to earn 35 rubles a month, and at the end when they both meet each other, Chekov is thanking the advocate, whose name is Sergey, right? So he was very happy that because of his behavior and attitude, the beggar changed his life and he became a successful person and a reputed person in the society. But at the end, the Sergey, he clears it off that the thank you was not for him, but it was for the cook, whose name was Olga, because it was because of her there was a change in attitude in him. The reason is, for the very first time, when Olga showed the place where the woods were to be chopped off, right, and all the other time when he used to come over there for chopping the food, it was Olga who used to chop the woods for him, because he was very weak enough, he could not chop the woods, and every time it was informed to the advocate that the woods were chopped by Chekov, right? So by seeing her behave in such a way, right, she used to, as I told, that she used to scold him and cry for him, and along with that she always chopped the wood for him. So seeing this kind of behavior, there was a change in the behavior of Chekov, right, and a lot of transformation took place in him, and because of that his whole life changed. So at the end he informs this thing to thank Olga, who was the cook at Sergey's home, and then he left the place for watching the movie in the theater, and that is how the chapter comes to an end. So this was the introduction of the summary of the chapter in short. Now let us begin with the explanation from the textbook, right? So it's on page number chapter number 10, right, page number 62. Okay, page number 62. So let us begin. Kind sir, have pity, turn your attention to a poor, hungry man. For 3 days I have had nothing to eat. I haven't 5 kopecks. So I have already explained you the meaning of kopecks. For a lodging. Lodging means to eat food. I swear it before God. That means he is swearing that genuinely he is not having any money to eat food. For 8 years I was a village school teacher, and then I lost my place through intrigues. Intrigues, I have already explained you the meaning. It means a secret plan or a plotting, right, done to harm the other person. I fell a victim to calumny. Calumny also I have told, to make a false statement about the opposite person in order to ruin his reputation in the society. That is calumny. It is a year now since I have had anything to do. That means since 1 year he is not having any kind of job or work through which he could earn money. The advocate Sergey looked at the ragged, fawn colored. Fawn means usually the clothes, when they become dirty, they become a bit brownish in color, so that is fawn colored. Fawn colored overcoat of the suppliant, right? So suppliant means a person who asks for something in a respectful way from a powerful person or God, right? Usually we have seen many people, they don't simply beg away, they do some kind of work for you and then they earn that money and then they ask for it. So that is suppliant. So fawn-colored overcoat of the suppliant, at his dull, drunken eyes, at the red spot on either cheek. Okay, that means he had become victim of drinking. He had got the habit of drinking because of because he did not have any kind of work and all. And it seemed to him as if he had seen this man somewhere before. I have now had an offer of a position in the province of Kaluga. Kaluga is a city in Russia. The mendicant went on, but I haven't the money to get there. Help me kindly. I am ashamed to ask, but I am obliged. Obliged to by circumstances. Obliged to means forced. That means the person who is actually whose name is Chekov, who is doing the begging work, he is saying that I am forced to do this thing because I don't have any kind of work, right? Further, Sergei's eyes fell on the men's overshoes, one of which was high and the other low, and he suddenly remembered something. Look here, it seems to me I met you the day before yesterday in Sarvodaya street. That means he is saying that I have seen you somewhere. Then he realizes that at some place yesterday I had seen you. He said, but you told me then that you were a student who had been expelled and not a village school teacher. Do you remember? No. That can't be so, mumbled the beggar. Taken aback. Taken aback means he was actually surprised, right? I am a village school teacher, and if you like, I can show you my papers. Have done with lying, right? So the advocate, he says that have you done with your lying? You called yourself a student and even told me that what you had been expelled for, right? You told me the reason also that why you were expelled from the school. Don't you remember? Sergei flushed and turned from the ragged creature with an expression of disgust. That means Sergei, who was an advocate, flushed and turned from the ragged creature. Flushed means to fly away suddenly. That means here it means he went immediately. He left the place and he went away immediately. And turned from the ragged creature with an expression of disgust. Disgust means a strong feeling of dislike. Okay, so he had a strong feeling of dislike for him because he felt or realized that he was lying to him, and that was the reason he just left the place immediately. This is dishonesty, my dear sir, he cried angrily. This is swindling. I shall send the police for you. Damn you. Swindling means to take money or property from someone by using lies or tricks, right? So what is written? This is dishonesty, my dear sir, he cried angrily. This is swindling. Okay, I shall send the police for you. Damn you. Sir, he said, laying his hand on his heart, right? So earlier lines were were told by Sergei. He told these lines to the beggar. So what the beggar is saying in return is, sir, he said, laying his hand on his heart, the fact is I was lying. He is accepting that I was lying. I am neither a student nor a school teacher. All that was fiction. So fiction means something that is not true, right? So he is accepting the fact. Formerly I sang in a Russian choir and was sent away for drunkenness. That means I was singing in a group for a choir and I was sent for. That means I was sent away, I was removed because I used to drink a lot. Okay, but what else can I do? I can't get along without lying. That means he's saying that now I don't have any option, and if I'll not lie, then the people, they will not give away the money to me, and if they don't give me money, I won't get anything to eat also. No one will give me anything when I tell the truth. What can I do? What can you do? You ask what you can do? cried Sergey, coming close to him. Work. That's what you can do. You must work. Right? So that is what the advocate is saying. Work, yes. I know that myself, but where can I find work? How would you like to chop wood for me? Right? So the advocate is offering him that how would you like to chop wood for me? That means, will you chop wood for me? Right? He was ready to give him the work. I wouldn't refuse to do that, but in these days, even skilled woodcutters find themselves sitting without bread. So he is trying to say that even the skilled workers, they are not having work. Then how is it possible that I am not having any kind of skill? Then too you will give work to me. Will you come and chop wood for me? Yes, sir, I will. Very well. We will soon find out. Sergey hastened along, rubbing his hands. He called his cook out of the kitchen. Right? So hasten means to move or act quickly. Right? So immediately said, okay, fine, chalo. Right? So he reached his home and he called the cook. Okay. Here, Olga, he said, take this gentleman into the woodshed and let him chop wood. The scarecrow of a beggar shrugged his shoulders as if in perplexity. Right? The shrugged means to raise like this. Okay. Okay. So shrug means usually we do like this, to raise and then lower our shoulders, which is known as shrug. Right? Because it shows that we are not knowing anything or something. Okay. So let us find out. The beggar shrugged his shoulders as if in perplexity. Perplexity means confusion. And went irresolutely after the cook. Irresolutely means not certain about what to do. Right? He was not sure what is going on and what he needs to do, because he had never chopped off the wood. It was obvious from his gait that he had not consented to go and chop wood because he was hungry and wanted work. Gait means a particular way of walking. That means if we are willing to do some kind of work, the attitude, the way of working is different, the gestures and postures are different. But if we are not working, then forcibly if we are working, so that is known as gait. And here this fellow Lushkov, he had not eaten food, he was hungry. And how can we expect that if a person has not eaten from 2 or 3 days, he will have that much energy to chop the food? Okay. So what is written further? That his gait, that he had not consented to go and chop wood because he was hungry and wanted work, but simply from pride and shame, and because he had been trapped by his own words. Right? So he had to go for chopping the food behind the cook Olga. The only reason was that is for his pride and for his honesty. He had to do this thing. He had himself told that who will give me work? I want to work but I don't have work, and he was trapped by his own words. Okay. Further, it was obvious TOO2 that his strength had been undermined by vodka. Right? That means he used to keep on drinking, and because of his strength, or because of that drink and alcohol, his strength was all lost. Right? And that he was unhealthy and did not feel the slightest inclination for toil. TOIL. Toil means to work very hard. And inclination means it is usually a tendency to do something. Right? That means as he was drinking, as he had become a drunkard, he had lost all his energy of the body, and because of that, whenever any work or he had to do any kind of hard work, he was unwilling to do that. He was not able to do that. Sergey hurried into the dining room. From its windows, one could see the woodshed and everything that went on in the yard. That means he was standing by the window and he was trying to find out what all was going on. Standing at the window, Sergey saw the cook and the beggar come out into the yard by the back door and make their way across the dirty snow to the shed. Olga, glared wrathfully at her companion. Right? So glad means to shine brightly. That means she was looking at the person who was next to her. Right? Wrathfully. Wrathfully means in extreme anger. That means she was very much angry at the other person. That is Chekov. Okay, at her companion, showed him aside. Showed, S-H-O-V-D. Showed means to push him. Right? So to push aside. Showed him aside with her elbow, unlocked the shed, and angrily banged the door. Right? Because Chekov, he used to drink, right? And he had the habit of drinking, and because of which he had become weak, extremely weak. And the way he was walking, the way he was standing, so that was irritating Olga. And because of that, she just elbowed him aside and then opened the door and just banged it. Okay. Next page. Next, he saw the pseudo teacher sit himself on a log and became lost in thought with his red cheeks resting on his fist like this. Okay. So pseudo means not real or genuine. Right? Pseudo teacher, that means he was not actually a teacher, that we all know. Right? So he seat himself on a log. Log means a piece of wood, and became lost in the thoughts with his red cheeks resting on his fist like this. The woman flung down an axe at his feet, spat angrily. Spat means to spit, that is spitting. So its past or past participle form is spat. Right? So usually when the person is angry, it is a kind of expression to show angerness. Spat angrily, and judging from the expression of her lips, began to scold him. The beggar irresolutely means not certain what to do, right, pulled a billet of wood towards him. Billet means a piece of wood, right? So a billet of wood towards him, set it up between his feet and tapped it feebly with the axe. That means slowly he was doing like this, right? The billet wavered and fell down. That means it used to shake and it used to fell down. The beggar again pulled it to him, blew on his freezing hands, because again we know Russia is the place where there is extreme cold. So he was again blowing his hand. He was doing like this to make himself warm, and then again he used to try to chop the wood, and tapped it with his axe cautiously, means carefully, as if afraid of hitting his overshoe or of cutting off his finger. The stick of wood again fell to the ground. So he was trying and making efforts, but he was not able to cut it. Sergei's anger had vanished, and he now began to feel a little sorry and ashamed of himself for having set a spoiled, drunken, perhaps sick man to work at manual labor in the cold. Right? That means he was now feeling extremely sorry for the person, because he was weak, he had not eaten food, but then too he was sent to do a kind of work which was not possible for him. Okay, and feebly means very weak. So next is, an hour later Olga came in and announced that the wood had all been chopped. Good, give him half a ruble, said Sergei. If he wants to, he can come back and cut wood on the first day of each month. We can always find a work for him. So that was what the advocate told the cook, to be informed to the beggar. Okay, so let us keep till here, right? And the remaining part of the chapter we will discuss in the next lecture, right? So that's it for today, everyone. Thank you everyone for listening to me. Take care of yourself, stay healthy and stay safe. Bye everyone.